We're producing cannons. Project I was going to share with you next, actually, we're doing the cannons that sit inside the ship that point outward, and these are turned water pipes. They actually have been turned on a lathe to give them a little edging. See? And I wanted to talk to you about metal, okay? So when you get water pipes, or generally any sheet metals, or just about any metal at all, except for maybe brass and copper, you're going to get mill scale on it. Mill scale is that stuff that comes off in your hands, and it kind of just feels like an oil. It's kind of gross. That's mill scale. Well, basically, mill scale will act like a resist with epoxies and other sealers and paints. So you've got to get it off. And if you're not familiar with mill scale, there's lots of different ways to get it off, but it's going to require generally a solvent. So I like to use acetone, which is an extremely nasty material. It's a nasty liquid, but it does the job very, very fast. So acetone on a rag, outside or with a respirator, and wear gloves. If you wear latex gloves, they tend to melt latex, so you want to wear a better quality glove than latex. Anyway, give it a good rub down. You should be able to handle it without having anything come off on your hands. Okay, that's how clean you need this to be. So what I'm going to do with these particular ones is I'm staying in the same theme. I want the whole ship to have the same look. So I'm going to go ahead and do a flood coat of epoxy and glitter over the top of these things and let them dry. The technique I'm going to use in this one is dipping. I'm actually going to be dipping this into epoxy. I only need the first 1.5 inches to show, so it won't take too much to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my epoxy mixed up, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, so I've got my epoxy mixed up. I'm going to go ahead and use these two. One's called Touch of Brass and one's called Prospectors. We added them in late November 2016. This is my first time ever working with them, and I thought what fun to mix them together, and it's beautiful, beautiful. Now, normally I would go ahead and spray paint these gold, but I sort of want the silver to shine through because I want it to kind of have an antique look to it. So I think the more colors I have going on, the better. So if I have the two golds plus this kind of dirty silver showing through the base, I think it's going to do it for me. Well, we're going to find out anyway, because we're about ready to rock and roll right here. I'm just going to stir it a little bit more. This particular one has very specialized instructions where it likes you to mix it up for about 3 minutes, transfer containers, blah, 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 blah. It's a good idea to follow their instructions. You can sometimes cut a few corners, but the truth of the matter is epoxy, when you do it just right, dries so much better. And if you cut corners, sometimes it can really add on to the drying time, and doesn't necessarily give you the same look that you're after. But if you can see this right here, this is the gorgeousness that I'm going to be dipping these barrels into. And always think ahead when you're dipping. What are you going to do after it's wet? You know, once you've dipped it, what are you going to do with it? You know, you can't just lay it down. You can't just stand it up. So, you know, it's something to think about. In these particular cases, I actually am going to go ahead and stand them on their end and let it just drip down the bottom. Okay, we're ready to roll. Always have lots of good plastic down. This stuff loves to go everywhere. So here we go. Rolling it around, pulling it up. Try and get a little bit further into the barrel of this. Probably could have used a container that was a 1/4 inch deeper, but I'm going to make it work. Okay, now the important thing is to let this thing really drip. You want to make sure that you got it on the inside and the outside. It's looking good. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and stand it up, and it'll naturally just start falling. Now what you want to do is make sure that it doesn't fall to the point where it drops the whole thing. And if you have the right temperature in your room, it should work out just about right. You can also take a brush and hand brush, further down if you need to. But otherwise, that's about the look I was going for, so I'm happy. Okay, all 4 of those are done. I'm going to go ahead and watch them. Make sure no open areas pop open, but technically it should stay nice and coated. And I'm going to go ahead and take a brush and just kind of clean it up a little bit. But other than that, that's how easy that is. Oh, I did want to show you. See how that silver's showing through a little bit? That's kind of the look I was looking for, where it would sort of, be uneven with gold. So I think I'm going to get what I wanted.